In Europe, that's a bill of zero. In New York City, that's a bill of about 10,000 apiece.
Crazy. I mean, crazy that you cannot afford actually to stay in the city where you grew up, right? Now I'm kind of afraid to go.
And somebody without shame decided, well, just going to do whatever I want. So there's going to be some new laws necessary. If we could teleport to see family and friends, that'd be the only reason we go back.
Rob, good evening and welcome to Whereabouts Tales.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. I look forward to talking to you.
Much appreciated time. I have to say I missed a real good expat episode, and this is what I was just telling you, and I'm happy that I have you here. So we can. I would like you to start by telling where are you originally from and where you are living at the moment.
Oh, of course. So I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York City, and I now live in Barcelona, Catalonia, with my wife and dog.
Man, I'm a US fanboy.
Oh,
I'm
yeah, is that
a
right?
I'm a New York fanboy. Man, I hate you so much for growing up in Bronx. So,
I tell you, I don't miss the snow at all. They're pretty buried. My family is all over the Bronx, Manhattan, and Queens, and it's something that I don't miss. But yeah, I love it. I find myself watching New York City movies and music made by, New York City artists and things like that. So I hear you, man. It's a beautiful city. I definitely am enjoying myself here more, though. I think there's just more freedom, I feel like, financially,
okay.
um, things like that.
Rob, Rob, how was it to grow up in New York City? I think I think I'm not exaggerating this when I'm asking, but I think it's 50% of the people of this planet on this planet's dream, and I'm genuinely curious how is it to grow up in New York City.
Well, so I grew up in the Bronx, which is one of the outer boroughs. You have Manhattan, it's surrounded by Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and then, of course, off Staten Island. I was born and raised in the Bronx, and I spent some time living in Upper Manhattan. It's pretty, you get used to being crowded in places pretty quickly, pretty early. You get very self-reliant very early. I was taking buses clear across the borough when I was 12, 11 years old by myself.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, my neighborhood was a little, it was a little tough. I basically make this joke that I grew up in the Bronx and Upper Manhattan, and I was, a little bit of an outcast. My neighborhoods weren't exactly filled with guys that look like me, so it was,
oh,
yeah. So I was like a bit of a majority minority in my
uh-huh.
neighborhoods and whatnot, and it informed a lot of my belief system and stuff later in life, having to sort of understand like where people are economically and where people are, how like cultural enclaves form. But New York City is really great because everyone's a New Yorker. No one really there aren't these real differences. Like no matter where you're from, if you live in New York, you're a New Yorker,
Hmm.
and that's a pretty beautiful thing. People are kind but not nice, I'd like to say. You can see somebody never say a word. So you can be on the subway, a woman's pushing a carriage, and somebody who never says a word to her picks up one side of the carriage, helps lift it up the stairs, drops the carriage down for her, never says a word, and moves about their day. Kind but not nice is what I would say. But I love growing up in the Bronx. Diehard Yankee fan. Um, I got married in the Bronx, born in the Bronx, raised in the Bronx. One of my nicknames for my shows is Bobby from the Bronx. A little alliteration there. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. But I mean, I love it, and I recommend it to anybody. It's a beautiful city. It's just you have to, it's a bit of a meat grinder. You have to make money. You have to have that hustler mindset. It's really difficult to, coast. You really have to have two jobs or a really good job or two people with three jobs. It's important because the
Was
costs.
it always like this?
Well, there was time in the 70s to the 90s where New York City was very like run down.
Hmm.
Like there were, very seedy locations and things, but that really changed ever since the 90s. It's been an astronomically high trajectory. Some of the most valuable real estate in the world, different parts of New York City, and not just Manhattan. There's every borough has their rich sort of enclaves. But yeah, it's been an expensive city for almost as long as I've been alive, without a doubt. It's probably the most expensive city outside of like London, maybe.
I think it goes so. Of course, depending on the areas of the cities, but I think it goes really. So, I mean, and even if we don't talk about the skyscrapers, if we don't talk about the huge penthouses that are in the skyscrapers, I think that just to have a normal rent, normal apartment somewhere in the, I don't know, in the Bronx, or maybe in I eh, in Queens, anywhere where you want, if you want to have a good apartment, I think you don't get out without $3,000-4,000. I think it's crazy for a 1 bedroom apartment.
Three is more common than four, but you have nice neighborhoods that get up there for sure, even outside of Manhattan. Part of why we moved to Barcelona is because the costs were getting astronomical, and you don't sign long-term leases like they do in Europe. So in
Ah,
Spain, you have a
you,
5 year, as a renter, you have a 5 year term, which with very minimal increases. Whereas in New York City, you get 1 or 2 year terms, and those rents go up 10% a year. It became pretty unsustainable.
they do that because of the possibilities that they have every year, right? So they only do it for 1 year because they know for sure next year they're gonna be able to do that more expensive.
Hey, like you said, everyone's dream is to live in New York City, right? I mean, yeah, it's
Nice.
uh, it's it's not a place where people don't want to be. So they're right now they have a competent mayor, which is nice, and so focusing on building more housing, lowering costs for people. I mean, I know people. A lot of my family had to move out of the city because it was just far too
Hmm.
expensive to exist. My grandmother, luckily, is in a pretty good situation for herself. There's some programs that help her out, but we
Hmm.
help her out. But it's a little it's really difficult. Most of my family has had to leave, and we were there for decades.
Nice. Crazy. I mean, crazy if
Yeah.
we talk about, so nice that you've been there for decades, and crazy that you cannot afford actually to stay in the city where you grew up, right?
Yeah, we
Um,
visit. We visit, of course, every year we visit family, but yeah, it's not there. I mean, the costs are just astronomical. And then healthcare. My wife and I are 40. Like healthcare spending is important for us. And here in Europe, that's a bill of zero. In New York City, that's a bill of about 10,000 apiece.
correct,
It's rough.
correct.
Yeah.
Rob, was anything in your childhood signalizing the fact that you will be leaving the US?
Actually, I don't know because I didn't leave the US until I was a full-grown adult.
I know,
Yeah, so
but
something I don't know, like I always found other places interesting to go, of course, but it's also New York City. Like I could try any type of food, any type of music, any type of movie, any type of group, any type of Broadway play, like so I guess I was pretty content for my 36 or so years that I lived there. But yeah, I can't speak to anything that would say like I knew I was going to leave because I never thought I was.
okay, that's interesting. What was the trigger? Was only the call situation, or there was something else that triggered the move?
It was a little bit of that, a little bit of work issues, but also my wife got contracted to come out here for her business. And so she was out here quite frequently. I would say roughly once a quarter, and it's up from like twice a year,
Hmm.
between the COVID, obviously, shutdowns and everything. And we both had a conversation like, my wife is going to be leaving, for weeks at a time every quarter, or could we give this an actual shot? And I had never been to Europe. I'd never spoken outside of high school introductory Spanish. I had never spoken much Espanol either. But I said, I'll give it a shot. Let me visit. Let me see what's happening. And I came here and I fell in love with the city. I mean, Barcelona to this day, I sing its praises. I really genuinely love living here. The people have been very friendly. I feel like I'm a respectful guest, and so people are nice. And there's just so much beauty here. It's absolutely incredible.
You discussed this with your wife, and I think there was a moment in which you said, "Okay, we do it. Let's try it." Was that the period that you had in mind, or you just said we go without an exact period to come back?
Well, her situation was always on a time limit. She actually exceeded her her goal because that's just what she does. And so she was done quicker than her actual allotted time. But we just decided that, it was worth trying to stay here after she was done. So it was return back to the States and go back to all the way everything was, or try to
Mm-hmm.
really establish ourselves here and make a life for ourselves here. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we both, once we were here and a couple years went by, we were like, I mean, if we could teleport to see family and friends, that'd be the only reason we go back,
Correct. Correct. Makes sense.
in my opinion.
W- What was the what was the feedback that you get from your family when you told them, yeah, you know what, we're gonna move a bit far away?
Some excitement. My grandmother wasn't obviously thrilled. I was taking, we were in a neighborhood where we were sort of looking after our grandparents. But she knew the opportunity was there. She hadn't never really traveled outside the country herself either.
Mm-hmm.
So she was excited for me. A lot of our family was excited for us. And some have visited, which has been really nice. We've averaged about guests, about two guests per year, give or take. It's
Mm-hmm.
been pretty cool. It's always very exciting for us when we have friends and family coming to visit. I'm part tour guide, part hotel manager, part historian. It's a lot of fun, so that's always been great. They're much happier that we come and visit them every year, though. Like there's a family reunion that happens in July. We've been making that every single year. And as long as it's, reasonable, we're going to continue to do that.
Nice. That I think that's one really really nice thing that you managed to do. If you managed to do it every year, the family reunion, because usually, unfortunately, we only take time for that when you have a family event, and usually are the sad
Yeah.
events that get you together, which is kind of sad because you don't take time to be happy about something, about getting together and so on. You only get together in the saddest events, and this is something which is really it's so sad. It's so sad when you think about it because we don't take time to be happy. We don't just take time when something really bad is happening.
No, it's an important point. I think more people should focus on just making sure to have these little get-togethers with family. I mean, a lot of my family is in their elder years.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother's her mid 80s. My wife's mom is in her mid 80s, so we've
Mm-hmm.
had other family members pass, of course. But it's nice to see, and then other generations are coming along, younger kids. They're like too cool for the family reunion now. So like the teenagers, they come and they show up for like 3 days. My wife and I are there for 8. It's a nice little spot in Pennsylvania we've been going to. My family's been going to since the 1970s.
Wow, you have the
Yeah,
same place that you're visiting.
it's just a little lakeside resort. They take care of you like family. We've known their family that runs it the entire
Mm-hmm.
time. So these same group of families, 4 or 5 families, have been going to this resort at the same time for about 40 to 50 years. It's
Yeah,
been
okay,
pretty
makes sense.
amazing, yeah. So
Yeah,
they're kind
makes
of like a
sense.
big extended family. It's like one big extended
Absolutely,
family, and everyone has
absolutely.
fun. You go to the lake, you go to the pool, you play some games, you play some board games, you overeat, that kind of stuff.
I like this overeating.
Yeah.
It's kind of a pattern when you meet the family, right?
Right, especially in the United States.
And
But yes,
trust me,
probably
Romania is
anywhere.
the same.
Yeah,
Romania
of
is the same.
course. Good times, good food.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly. You think only this time. You only visit once. So
Right, exactly. It's always a special occasion. It's always somebody's birthday or something like that. So, no, it's really nice that we get to do it. And we just booked our tickets last week, actually, to go back in the summer again. So we're pretty excited about it.
nice. It's very cool. Can I ask you, may I ask you, how old is your grandmother, Rob?
84. 84, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Nice. So I have to say this is something that some everyone is like with the family reunion. I think the fact that you have your grandma around, I think that's a gift that you have to take advantage of.
Oh, yeah. My grandparents raised me, so they're more like parents. And my grandfather,
Hmm.
rest in peace, passed away during the pandemic. So we're very, very close and helped formulate a lot of, who I am as a person. My grandmother's a tough cookie, she would say. She's, born and raised in Manhattan in the Bronx as well.
Wow.
Yeah, crossing guard, superintendent, every odd job you can imagine. She even still does them now. She takes like little trips to the grocery store for her girlfriends, like she's a hustler and she ingrained it in all of us. It's really,
it could be that that's the reason why she's still there and active with being in that age, because whenever you tell your body, you know what, I have nothing to do tomorrow, and I think your body's just saying, okay, then
Mm.
I'll not try to protect myself anymore. So
You're
yeah,
100% right. You're 100% right. If you have something to wake up for every single day, especially later in life and with everything going on with your health, I think it's so critical. That's why, I don't think she would ever fully retire, like she's retired, but she makes
and
sure
I
to
think
fill
makes
up her
sense.
days. Yeah, I
Yes.
would too. Absolutely. Actually we have a good friend of ours from back in the States whose family's from Romania. I can't remember exactly where, but he's I think first generation American. His name is Mihai Popa.
There are a lot of movies as well based on that. But they have there was a big Romanian community, and especially in New York. So fun fact, I said on one of the previous episodes that the
Mhm.
guy that developed the subway system in New York is a Romanian engineer.
Oh, is that so? Oh
Yes,
wow.
he actually built all this fast track, so the you have these interconnections where you have the one stopping in every station, and then you have the transit one going through all the
The
stations, and
Express. Yeah.
exactly. So all that system. So he developed it. I think
Wow.
he was sold by the communist Romania to the US as a professional engineer, and he
Okay.
started doing that in the I think in the 70s. He died last year, I think, was an actual news, but he was the guy developing the subway system, which is
Ah, it's
impressive
incredible.
for me. Yeah,
Ah, yeah, it's one of the biggest in the world. It's absolutely not I'm four of the five boroughs. Absolutely incredible. It's nice.
I
I love history, so that's a nice tidbit.
yeah I have the same things. I'm in love with this interesting facts that nobody gives a rat's ass about.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've been there. I've
uh,
been there.
okay.
So you told me something earlier interesting. I was very interested in saying how much of a fan you are of like U.S. pop culture and things like that. So what is
Mhm.
like your favorite or your couple of favorite movies from the U.S.?
I grew up. Um, so maybe a bit of a backstory.
Mm,
I come from a communist country. We didn't have access to
mm.
much until we got off the communist. So, funny story. Actually talked with one of my guests that there was a piracy system in which the airline pilots brought VHS tapes from outside of Romania, and
Oh, cool.
there was a lab in Bucharest where they were copying one tape to 300 different tapes in the same time. So there was an industry,
Wow.
and there was a one lady that was usually translating every movie with her voice. So they were actually recording on the original VHS tape her voice on top, because she was able to speak English and to translate the movie. So I grew up
Wow.
in the 90s with the Van Damme movies and Arnold movies and
Oh,
Karate
the
Kid,
action.
exactly, action movies. Then I switched to Saved by the Bell as I
Oh,
grew up.
yeah. My wife loves that one.
Absolutely. Saved by the Bell. Then I've seen Beverly Hills 19210. So I think that was a big one. Uh, do you know it?
Yeah, 902
Nine.
Beverly Hills 90210. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yep. Yeah.
90210. Exactly. Then I grew up and I was Captain Planet. We've watched a lot of cartoons.
Of
Captain Planet,
course.
Dexter's Lab, um, Johnny Bravo, and the
All of
last.
these smuggled in and re-recorded with dubbed Romanian. Is that
Not
correct?
all of them. So some of
Oh,
them,
okay.
yes. Some of them,
Okay.
yes. But some of them, we get. So I think in somewhere in the 95, we got Cartoon Network. Was the first
Oh,
time when we actually got the Cartoon Network station, TV station, and it was all in English. So that's when I started to learn English, by watching all those cartoons. So we had no other no other
right.
possibility. I had no translation, nothing. And um, exactly. And then the dub one, we've seen the movies mostly, because nobody were investing time for kids. Like, you had the cartoons at the beginning of the movie, maybe one, two Tom and Jerry episodes, and that's it.
Sure.
But for those, you didn't need translation. Um, and the last one that I loved, the last cartoon that I loved, was Life with Louie. I spoke to a lot about this. I don't know if you know it.
Sounds familiar.
So there, it's done by the comedian Louis Anderson. I don't know if you know Louis
Oh,
Anderson.
yes, I do know this. Yes, it was like Bobby's World and around that same
Exactly,
time. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly. And I think that was the last one where I had the actual. This actual, they were so fun, so nice because there was this actual American culture. I loved it in every movie to see. What do I loved? I loved the streets where all the kids were playing together. I loved this community that I saw in every movie. I don't know if it was real. I I saw the cliche in every movie, but I cannot. I was
Sure.
in 2017. I was in the US because of my work, my job that I have at the moment, and no, there was two, no, 2020. It was 2017, but last time I was in 2023 on a business trip in North Carolina. And I did drove through the neighborhoods and I've seen those houses with that porch in front and everything that I've seen in the movies. You have no idea what, what kind of feeling was that because that was only something that I've seen in the movies. So I had the
Sure.
impulse to
Sure.
stop the car and go somewhere and walk in, but I thought that would be the weirdo if I do that because of the
Yeah, yeah,
marijuana.
yeah. Then you might be met unfriendly as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
but
amazing, man. I love that.
I loved everything because I grew up with that. I still remember my first story, my first trip to the US when I saw the first yellow school bus. I was impressed, man. I didn't know that was a real thing. I thought first time it's only in the movies, but that was a real thing. That was
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was a dream. I never dreamed of reaching of being getting in the United States. I'm honest. I now am kind of afraid to go.
It's
Um,
a little, yeah, it's a little, right now things are a little chaotic. That's why I'm doing a lot of volunteering.
it's sad for me. I've been in 2023. I've we have done no 2024. We have done a nice road trip on the East Coast, driving from New York to Miami with my wife and my son was such an amazing experience.
Oh, it's amazing.
Um,
Yeah.
but
It
I'm
is a great
afraid to
road
go
trip
back.
country. Right
Absolutely.
now, yeah, sorry to cut you off there, man. Yeah, right now the problem is the chaos emanating from the top and the forgetfulness of the true values of what the United States of America is supposed to stand for. Immigration made the United States of America the biggest economy in the history of humanity. It's the reason the United States of America is great. And back when people were just going through Ellis Island, they'd say cough in one hand, are you a criminal? No, and then you would just be a citizen. The direction that, unfortunately, the president is echoing down to the rest of it is a disgrace. But I just tell you, I'm part of a very, very, very big movement trying to put an end to that.
I I honestly hope I am a dreamer, and I really hope that this state will come. The good things will come back, and without. And I think I see that you are on the same thing. You're not making it a political discussion. It's just a discussion about the state of
Yeah,
things at the moment. We don't talk about politics. We just think that we are we are having other people's fights, and I think this is something which is not natural, and we should not do that. And there was a nice statement. I don't know if you have seen the Grammys 2 days, two evenings ago.
my wife did.
I,
Yeah,
I think Billie Eilish made the statement where she said everyone is allowed to be in a stolen land. So um,
yeah. I mean, that's a fair point. You know, Manhattan isn't exactly born and bred from the. Yeah, no, you're right.
from
You're right.
yeah, so yeah, um, sad times, but we hope for the best. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm actively working with very large groups to ensure that sanity comes back to my home country. I feel that I can't abandon it, so I do participate in voter registration events. I do participate in
hmm
absentee ballot request events and communications roles and stuff. You know, I do what I can. But yeah, I think it's important to understand the perspectives of living in different countries. So I think I have a lot to offer by my years outside of the States. You know,
for
I'm
sure,
back.
for sure.
There's a lot I've learned here. There's a lot of ways that things work here that I never even thought possible. I mean, I go to a my local hospital takes care of all of my health care. I show them a card, and then they go to any pharmacy in the city and you can get your prescription. And then I go, how much I owe you? And they say nothing. What's wrong with you? You don't know us anything. So there are things that I think I've learned a lot being out here, and I'm very, very lucky to have that. And I just, I think it's a lesson that I can help convey, hopefully, to my fellow countrymen.
I think the important thing is that there was a lot of discussion about this because they said yeah, healthcare is not free in Europe, and I would say no, for sure it's not free. That's why we pay taxes for it, and
Yeah, of course.
I think that's exactly the right message that we have to send. Not that it's free; it's just the fact that the monies are going in the right direction to support the population. I think that's the important message from my point of view.
I think it's so critical that, yeah, I mean, let me not misconstrue the point that of course it costs money to do this stuff. But at the end of the day, the United States healthcare programs have been a complete disaster for people that need them. If you're rich, it's the best healthcare in the world. But if you're not, so many people go bankrupt on that. And it's not, it's not necessary. There's a $1 trillion a year budget for the Pentagon. So it's definitely not necessary that people have to go bankrupt for healthcare costs. So it's, call me, get me on my soapbox, but it's sort of a, sort of a thing. And I'm sorry to get you down in the deep.
No,
I told you I wouldn't do that.
I'm no. I'm absolutely fine with that, and I think that all of these are topics that have to be discussed. And I think it's hard when you think that you are financing the Ministry of the Secretary of War now, which is the new name. It's unbelievable, man. It's I cannot cope that. I really cannot cope that. Uh, I'm reading I'm reading the New York Times. I'm a subscription payer for the New York Times because I'm getting my news from there. And of course, you have a lot of US news behind, besides the international news. And oh man,
Yeah, it's yeah, there's a I like to, and I just laugh because if you don't, you go crazy.
absolutely.
The absurdity and the ridiculousness of it. So yeah, I mean, I think staying informed is absolutely critical. And unfortunately, now that's going to make you a little depressed. So I always try to recommend people to, you know, if you feel like you're powerless, you're not. You have a platform, you have friends, you have people, you have things you can do. Everybody can do something. Whether it's, hey, you have some American friends. Hey, did you register to vote? Have you requested your absentee ballot? That's what I do. Hey, there's some good causes like civil rights attorneys that could use money. Do you have money? Give them money. If you don't, you have time to get on the phone and call people, call people. Like there's a lot of different things people can do that don't require every single day focus. I just happen to make that focus because that's just in who I am. And it's a little bit too crazy for me to just not work as hard as I can to put a stop to it.
Completely understandable, Rob. Completely understandable.
Yeah.
Um, Rob,
So,
let's switch back to the main topic.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, I know I do love to talk about this. As I said, I love the US, and
yeah,
I will finish this. I love the
me
US.
too.
I read the Michelle Obama's book, Becoming, and I love that chapter which is telling the story of the neighborhood in the US when she's saying, okay, everyone was taking care of everyone. You had that thing. You are not you were afraid to do something bad on the street because Miss Johnson was calling your mother at home. There was 3 blocks away and
Oh.
saying, "We all please be aware. Michelle did this and this and that." And when you came back, you heard everything and you knew everything, and nothing was a secret. So this community spirit is something which I loved in the US.
There's
I
a
hope
lot
it
of
will come
good.
back.
There's a lot of good. There's so much good, and people are trying really hard. I like to say it is civilized humanity's greatest experiment, but it is still an experiment. It is not a finished product by any way, shape, or form. But I think there are brighter days ahead and good people. I always say if you see well, I've heard and I always say, if you see a crisis, look for the helpers. And I think
I
it's important.
said I said something in one of the previous episodes, and it was real. It received a lot of hate, and I said that US is still the only country which was not um, under an authoritarian leader, or it wasn't under any kind of kings until now.
So, some Americans in the South during the slavery and Jim Crow eras, they're very familiar with authoritarianism.
Correct.
But yes, you are totally right in terms of the general population of the United
Correct.
States has no context whatsoever for authoritarianism, dictatorship,
Exactly.
very low percentages. And you're learning right now that a lot of the systems in the United States were shame based and not law based. And somebody without shame decided, well, just going to do whatever I want. So there's going to be some new laws necessary. There's going to be,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of fires to put out. And, I call myself a little bit of a fireman. I'm trying to do everything I can to contribute to that and the best way possible. I do think there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's just going to be dark for a little while, actually.
It's
I
gonna
think
get worse before it's gonna get better for sure.
I hope this November is a very,
Everyone.
very, very big November in the history of the United States of America. And people should know
Everyone, Rob.
that, how
Everyone.
critical this November is. This election in this November, the midterms, where 90% of Congress is up for grabs, a bunch of governors and state houses, a bunch of statewide and local positions. Uh, be active, be informed, most importantly, but be active and don't take your rights for granted. We still have elections in the United States of America. I hope everyone uses them.
Correct. 100%. The one of the more, if not the most important midterm process from the last century.
Absolutely. It's the when a pipe is about to explode and you can channel the steam to another pipe. This is that process.
I
And
like the
we
comparison. I like the
should get it right.
comparison.
Yeah, if you
I
have a
like
plumber
it.
in your family, you get the joke. But
Exactly.
yes, but yeah, I mean, it's really informed me so well to be in and around expats, other expats, US expats, but also ones from different countries. I'm learning so much from people's experiences. Barcelona is since the Romans, it's been a very cosmopolitan city. It's always been a sort of a hub, and I think that's a beautiful thing. It reminds me very much of New York City in that, I feel very much at home here because it's so internationally welcoming, and I know that that's not the perfect situation for everybody, but I think it's a good one.
Correct. Absolutely. Rob, coming back to Barcelona,
Yes.
how was the landing experience? What was your first impression?
That is quite a question. The landing experience was surreal. I got here. We brought our 10 bags off the plane and our dog, and we got settled. We didn't know how to use the subway or the buses for quite some time. And it's so simple. Like now that I think about it, how dumb we were to not even like really, think that through. But we didn't have our friend group at that point. That's been very informative to have a lot of friends here. But when we landed, a lot of things were shocks. Like I didn't know eggs and milk can be out of the fridge. Yeah, I had no idea that this was even possible.
Simple things, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. And it was fun to see little, some United States products have definitely come around, some candy, some chips, some alcohol, but like there's no peanut butter. You have to go on a journey.
Hunt.
You have to go on a hunt through a supermarket to find a single jar of peanut butter, and it's one of my favorite things. So I found that a little funny. And yeah, the neighbors are very, very nice. We're all very nice to each other, but I don't think we're all like buddy buddy, like hanging out, going to each other's houses and stuff. But I think that's the New York in my wife and I. Like maybe we could be a little bit like we're very polite and good neighbors, but I don't think we're like super, like hey, let's all hang out kind of neighbors. So I think we can get better at that, especially now. But yeah, landing was quite surreal. What blew me away was the architecture. I never saw buildings older than 100 years old. Like Manhattan has some old ones, of course. The Bronx, the parts of the Bronx, parts of Brooklyn have some, century old buildings, but I never saw 200, 300,000-year-old buildings before. It blew me away. I'm like now kind of an architecture freak. I get books and I'm watching documentaries. Modernisme, like the modernist movement throughout Europe is really blowing my mind on how incredible. Like I purposely walk down different streets that I didn't go down and take longer to go places because I want to see all these beautiful buildings. So that blew my mind. Also the capacity for making plans. So our friend groups are very last minute about things. So it's usually like, hey, it's Thursday night. Anyone want to go out for tapas tomorrow? Oh, sure. Okay, I guess that's the move. Whereas in the States, we'd be planning things. Okay, in 2 weeks we're going to see these people, and in a week we're going to see your grandmother, and in a week we're going to do this. So that was going with the flow was a learning curve for us, definitely.
That's a really interesting one. So I have to say the architecture one, yes, fully understandable. Now, if you think about it, it's like the history, the complete history of US. You might have it in 3, 4 buildings in Spain, like,
Right.
or you have
Yeah.
buildings which are older than the history of the US because this is how it is. The village where I'm living in Germany was established in uh, oh, I don't know how to say it, 1286.
Wow. Yeah, that's
I'm
incredible.
my mind is blown every time when I think about this. I have to be honest,
Yeah. Right. I
because
mean, like this happened. Like I go to Roman ruins, in Tarragona, about half an hour from here. It's the largest segment of Roman ruins outside of Rome. And I've been to Rome also, and it blows my mind that I really love human civilization before the Industrial Revolution. There's just
hmm
something about like where civilization couldn't say, "Hey, get the machine to do this," that I just find so incredibly like appealing. And so I wind up stopping myself before when I do like my little deep dives on like European history now because I live here. I want to learn about Spain. I want to learn about Europe. I want to learn about the rest of the world. And that got me into deep dives from the Bronze Age all the way up to, the Reconquista in Spain. Just sort of my like, range right now. But yeah, it's really a lot of it is really just taken time to get used to like, wow, we're gonna go sit in this cafe for the next 2 hours with our friends. My wife and I were leaving meals in restaurants in like 40 minutes and getting looks. Like, what are you guys doing when we first came here? Because that's not what happens. People sit and enjoy their meals, and I thought that took some getting used to.
I I had the reverse cultures. I don't know if it's reverse culture, but
Uh,
we were in a cheesecake factory,
oh yeah, yeah,
in Raleigh, North Carolina, with my
yeah,
wife and my
very
son,
famous.
and absolutely, and we got some food, and we finished the food, and then said, "Can I bring you something else?" No, here's the check, so go, like go,
Right.
like
That's polite. That's polite
exactly,
in the United States. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, whereas here you got to hunt down the waiter because they're not trying to be impolite to you. It's impolite to
Exactly.
leave a check on your
Exactly.
desk and walk away. Yeah, you're right. Reverse for sure. That is
I don't,
absolutely reverse.
as I said, I don't know if it's reversed, but I was something which I was a bit shocked about.
Yeah.
Um, how's the language experience, Rob?
So I'm glad you brought that up. I'm restarting my classes on Thursday. I'm intermediate. If you put me in a situation in jobs and projects that I've done with only, or friends hanging out with that are only, speakers of, Spanish, Espanol, or I can get real with the vocabulary of it and have plenty of communications with people but conversations, I should say. But what happens sometimes is my brain will just stop working mid conversation because a word sounds too much like another word. And then I'm like, but no, isn't that word dog? And then and I just derail myself. So that's why I'm back in classes. But I feel good. I mean, I'm intermediate. I definitely can speak in multiple past, present, future. I can convey my thoughts in an emergency. Like if and my restaurant Spanish is elite. I get a copa de vino in me and I can converse with everyone in the restaurant. I'm like a genuine politician. Like I'm just having talks with everybody, the bartender, the camareros, the friends, the other guests. Yeah, it's just really fun. I should just pretend the whole world's a restaurant and I'll be much better. So, but yeah, back
Gives you
at it.
takes the pressure off, right?
Exactly, exactly. Back at it on Thursday though. That was another shock too. Speaking of that, that wine could be so delicious and so cheap. So in Manhattan, a good glass of decent wine will run you between 10 and 14 American dollars USD. Like, and that's like a decent one. That's not the best you've ever had because the imports and everything like that cost money. And it's less strong, it's less forte. I come here and every single glass of wine that I've had at a restaurant has been delicious, and it's cost €3 or €4. And I go to the stores and the bottles are €10, and I get to try. Everyone loves Rioja. That's the famous one, and it's delicious, and that region is incredible. But our little region, Catalonia, has amazing wines too. Priorat, Monsant, Penedes. There's so many great, great wines here, and I think I've turned myself into a little bit of a obsessive because I can't get over it. Food as well.
Food, it's gonna be a different topic because I think food in
Oh yeah.
Spain in general it's impressive, but food coming from the perspective of a guy moving in Spain from New York has to be a different experience, Rob.
Mind blowing. Total mind blowing. I mean the freshness, the caliber of fresh that everything is, because the culture isn't load up your truck with bulk items from Costco or a warehouse distributor and have those for a month. The culture is swing by the market on the way home and let's cook something tonight. Get yourself some chicken cutlets, get yourself some pasta, get yourself some white sauce, and let's make something up. It's really and I became an addict of. I didn't know that I was addicted to this fresh baked bread from bakeries. It's
Oh,
probably my favorite thing in the world.
have you been in France?
I have. I've been to Paris for a few days. Incredible,
Have you
incredible as
tried?
well.
Have you experienced the boulangerie? Le
I don't.
boulangerie.
I don't think I have.
Le
No.
boulangerie
Oh.
is the French name for bake for the place where you buy bread.
Okay, sure. I probably
Uh,
my wife probably did hook me up.
the baguette in
Yeah,
France.
French baguette. Yeah.
French and living in Germany since 10 years, I can only say this pretzel, and most
Oh
probably
yeah. Well,
But in
I love German food. I love a lot of German food, actually. We went for Christmas markets last year and we did Heidelberg. Between Heidelberg and Stuttgart, a few different, neighborhoods, cities and towns, I should say.
that
My friend's from just outside of Heidelberg, so she kind of toured us around. And I was in love with absolutely everything, like the pork knuckle and the brats I had this roulade. It was like this like rolled up beef thing in like a red wine sauce. And she was like, this is all great in the winter, but when it's, 40 Celsius in the summer, you don't really want a giant pork knuckle, and but I absolutely love the food in Germany and I love the food in Paris. I had the best cup of coffee in my life in a random lotto shop on a random street in Paris. And I'm like, why is this so good? Somebody's playing the lottery and smoking a cigarette right there. And this is better than any coffee I've ever had in my life. Yeah, I'm just blown away. I've been blown away by the high quality of pretty much everything that I've ingested here in and around Europe.
I
It's
think
been
I
incredible.
think so. First of all, Heidelberg best city in Germany. I want to say
It's
hands down,
amazing. It's
hands
amazing.
down, hands down. So no question asked. But second, you see, I think this coffee thing is a question of experience and expectation.
Yeah, okay.
I had, I have had. I love coffee. I'm a coffee addict,
Oh, is that right?
and
Okay.
I do not necessarily enjoy the Starbucks coffee because I have the feeling that it's just a factory. Like you have an industry behind it, and it's a
Yep.
factory. And
Perfectly fair.
being in New York for I think it was the first trip with my wife after my child was born. We have made we have had a 4 day city break in New York. I had only Starbucks, and I found a coffee place in New York which was called, I just remember it, Blank Street.
Okay.
I think it's a New York-based chain, and that was for me my best coffee. And I think
Oh.
just because the expectation was so low because of the Starbucks
Yeah,
coffee,
yeah, right. You're
and
like,
I went inside and I said, oh, that was amazing. And I think for you it's the same. You had your best coffee there because the expectation of a place like you think, yeah, you
right.
have Lotto and who would have here good coffee?
Right. I mean, I was just sitting sitting outside and then being like, this is incredible. And I'm
Exactly.
not much of a coffee drinker. It's more of a like when I work overnights, I'll drink it to kind of stay
Hmm.
awake a little bit, or how we all do. Sometimes you have it at the end of the night when you're drinking, you want to, sober up a little bit, even though that's a myth. I wind up doing that as well. Yeah, I mean, it's been because I went from never visiting Europe, ever. We were married in Costa Rica. I went to a friend's wedding in Bahamas, and we went to another friend's wedding in Nicaragua. That is the extent of my travel in my entire life. And now we've been pretty much all over Spain, Germany, France, Italy, and Stockholm. And we went to Stockholm,
Mm-hmm.
Sweden.
Sweden.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and so I feel very well traveled. We have the hack that I believe all Europeans kind of know, where you take off on the off season. So you don't go traveling with all these tourists. Like that's any self-respecting European doesn't do that. You want to go to see Rome, you don't do it in July, you do it in February, like a smart European. So we've learned a lot of that. And my wife loves to travel. She's way more traveled than I am. And so we're trying to do places she hasn't been, so we got to check off some boxes, for a little while first. Like she's never been to Greece, and so we want to go to a few places. That's the next bucket list item for sure.
I have to say, traveling without kids, and now traveling with my son, who
Mm.
is who just became a school kid since 1.5 years.
Oh, nice.
Um, it's more costly to travel with kids during the school holidays. And I have to say, this is an asshole move from every every travel company that exists on this planet. So
Right.
if you buy the ticket on Friday before the school holiday, it's 10 euros. I'm just exaggerating, but it's 10
Huh.
euros. If you buy it on Monday or Saturday in the same week, it's 500 euros. So that's the gap that I'm talking about.
There you go. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's crazy, but yeah, I know. I know what you mean. Europe is impressive. I think the history of Europe is impressive. And everywhere you go, you see a piece of
Well,
history. I'm a driving distance from Italy, and we go quite often. We have about 5 hours, 5.5 hours of drive to Milano from where we
not
live.
bad. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
So it makes it quite easy to be there. Like you don't really think a lot. You just okay. Should we go for the weekend? Yeah. So if you have another extra day behind the near the weekend, we are there. And I think seeing Switzerland, driving through Switzerland. No, I'm not talking about visiting Switzerland. I'm just talking about driving through Switzerland. Is one of the
Uh-huh.
best experience that you can have.
That has to be an incredible view. Just incredible view after incredible view after incredible view. Yeah, that's on the
Exactly.
list. Sweden's on the list.
Exactly.
I mean, Switzerland, sorry, is definitely on the
Switzerland.
list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. We did Rome for my birthday, and like I said, we did it like in February, and then we kind of crashed friends. So our friends invited us to their wedding in Toronto, and that was just like not really feasible. And then we found out that they were honeymooning in Florence. And so we coordinated with her husband, who's a new friend, a good friend now, but at the time we didn't know him so well. And he helped us surprise her and them. So we just kind of crashed their honeymoon, but only for 2 days. And then we went and did our own thing. But wow, Florence. I mean, there's so many different parts of Italy that are incredible that I want to go back to. And I always tell my friends from Italy, like, wow, this is something that I could spend the rest of my life, a country I could spend the rest of my life visiting easily.
A place which is amazing, and we've been there quite often now. It's Lago di Garda. I don't know if you know, so the Garda
I'm not
Lake.
aware. Oh.
So it's a huge lake somewhere in the northern part of Italy as well, not
Mhm.
that far away from Florence. I think you're maybe 2 hours, 3 hours
Oh,
away from Florence, something like that. I mean, everything is close in Italy because from one from one side to the other you have about 4.5, 5 hours when you go in the deepest part of Italy.
gotcha.
But Tuscany, Garda Lake, so everything in Italy is just fascinating. Just I
Oh,
don't know, it's because of the history, it's because of the places, because of the different. I don't know why, but it's just fascinating.
it's a combination. They have such natural beauty and such significant historical impact. We're
Yeah.
dying to go to Venice, but we found out this year for my birthday coming up, it's Carnival, and they go
Mm-hmm.
nuts. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
No. No.
maybe
No.
that's
No.
not
No.
the
No. No.
vibe. Yeah, maybe that's not
No.
the
No. No. No.
vibe
No.
we're looking for. We'll go partying. We can party with the best of them, but we like the house party thing more than
Yeah.
like going out clubbing all night. And
No,
I feel
that's
like that's what it's
crazy.
going to be. So
It's
we'll
like
we'll
the
save that one.
carnival. I don't know if you know, in Germany there's something which is called the Fasching Carnival, which starts
No.
on the 11th at 11 and 11 minutes, and it's a week of drinking.
But yeah, sure, sure, sure.
It's in
I'm dying to
Cologne.
go for Oktoberfest. Actually, I think that'll be a
Oh,
really good
that's
time.
also you
Need your
have to have a good
recommendations.
you have to have a good liver for that.
I'm Irish. Oh, yeah, I'm pretty good.
Makes sense. Okay, good. Makes sense. I haven't said anything.
Bad joke.
Rob, I have to ask you. I
Sure.
have to ask you another thing. So we talked about the, let's say the fascinating landing experience, but I have to ask you, how was your interaction with the authorities? So you went into a bank account creation process, apartment hunting, and so on. How was all that for you in Spain?
Very well, difficult at first because I didn't speak the language. So it's actually quite interesting that we've done, you get your paperwork, immigration paperwork, and your NIEs and all this other stuff. And it was quite difficult because I needed my wife to do a lot of it. She's fluent in Spanish.
Ah,
I mean,
okay.
she has several different types of education from pretty much all over. But so she helped a lot with that, and we got through it. But it was cumbersome. I understand why a large bureaucracy is necessary in these situations because you're dealing with massive programs for millions of people. But it was cumbersome. It felt a bit maze-like. That was, and it was tricky for me back when I didn't know as much of the language because I was like, well, what does this mean? And I'm always Google translating and picturing and trying to. Now it's a lot better. It's a lot smoother. I can go to my own doctor's appointments. Like a big boy. um, so it's easier now. But back then it was definitely intimidating.
Um, we talked about food, and you mentioned the freshness. Is it something that you miss from US, food-wise?
Oh yeah. Well, New York City is, in my humble opinion, some of the best pizza in the world. I do miss the style of pizza from New York City. I obviously
Makes
there's
sense.
Italy and it's incredible and it's been around forever. I understand it. It's amazing. Every single time I've eaten at an Italian restaurant, it's been heaven. But I personally miss the New York City pizza and the New York City bagel. Big bagel guy. So that it's the precursor to my bread addiction here, I guess, is that I was a big bagel guy back in the States. Kansas City barbecue is very, very good. It's on a high level. And sometimes snacks. There are things that don't translate out here. Again, people don't love peanut butter. So my favorite Reese's peanut butter cup candies are very difficult to procure when I'm out here.
Reese,
It's one of the things I force my friends to bring for us. Like you got to bring me Reese's peanut butter cups. They're my favorite candy. But it's not something well liked out here, so it's not very
small
easy to
small
get.
secret, small secret. Since
Mm.
2 years, they are in the stores in Germany.
Wait, what?
They are in the stores in Germany since about
Oh,
2 years now.
nice. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I hope to
Yeah,
bring that I hope to bring that wave here to Barcelona. That'd be good. I've seen it here and there in the touristy areas, but it's very uncommon. And we have different stores, America, it's called Tastes of America or something, I believe. And I've been
hmm
there a bunch of times. It's like when I feel a little bit, nostalgic for home, I
homesick.
guess. I go and get a bunch my wife is a joke, a bunch of my Christmas presents were items from that store. So like sugary cereals that no one would ever eat here, peanut butter cups that I love, frozen bagels. Like it was a very funny, cute package of gifts from the one place. But that's really it. Honestly, I'm so blown away by the high quality of food here. I can never. It really takes family run establishments in the States to compare because that's made with love, it's made with attention to detail. It's not like going to an Olive Garden. This is a third generation restaurant you're sitting at up the road from your house, and you're going to get to know that person because you see them every single day, and they would be insulted to give you bad food.
Correct.
Whereas,
100%.
outside the tourist areas, of course, every tourist area in the entire planet is sort of a churn them and burn them kind of situation. But yeah, 99% of the places when you're outside those tourist areas, they want to have a best foot forward, high quality kind of meal for you. They take pride in it. Even the waiters and, they take pride in making sure the customers, enjoyed every bite of it. And I think that's incredible. Like you know, I could stand to eat a little less maybe, but I do love it. I do absolutely love it.
Have you experienced? And you have for sure experienced holidays in Spain, right?
Oh, surely.
Like,
Yes, yes, yes.
how do you see them in comparison with the one that you knew from US?
That's a good question. There's no Halloween. Very used
Correct.
to it's we're making a little tradition with our friends and we throw costume parties on that day, and invite friends to the house because we're trying to like bring it in a little bit. Christmas is quite different. I'm Catholic by, born and raised Catholic, so it's a Catholic country. So I'm pretty familiar with the traditions, but it's quite different. It's quite different how you basically from December 20th until January 7th are in this weird nebulous kind of existence where half the places are closed, half of them aren't. Some days they're open, some days they're not. You sometimes it's best to just bunker down at home for 5 days, because you're just going to go out and it's going to be a zombie movie, because it's a popular. So I love that. Obviously, the Catholic thing, I have a lot of the traditions, but I didn't know there's some very interesting traditions like Cagatio, which is something where for the children, it's like a piñata, but it's a log that they kind of whack the candy out of. They beat the log until they get candy for Christmas. And then here, I believe they're called the Caganieres, which is a Catalan tradition, if I'm not mistaken, where it's sort of a fresh start to the new year. So you put this guy behind your sort of manger, if that's your thing, under your tree, and then he's pooping, and it's a statuette of a yes, no, yep, that's a thing. And so we got involved with that, but they've adapted the tradition that it can be anybody. So it can be Yoda from Star Wars pooping, it can be presidents, it can be prime ministers, it can be titans of industry. Like it's so that one was a little bit of a mix for me. And we never really celebrated Three Kings Day in the States. Obviously, it's a religious holiday, and it's there's services and whatnot, but there was never any celebrating the day. Whereas here, it is massive, almost bigger than Christmas, and that's very interesting. Massive parades, very cool.
You said you were raised up Catholic, born and raised Catholic in the US. Do you have a feeling there's a difference in the perception of religion in the US comparison with how do you feel it in Europe?
Well, yeah. I mean, in the United States, people show up to church in flip-flops and tank tops. Like there's a lack of reverence. I mean, in the Catholic churches, in my experience, people showing up anytime. I feel like there's definitely more reverence. And also, there's so many religious holidays that are days off here. So I never knew so many saints existed. Like, oh, great, it's another day off. Okay, I'll see you Tuesday. Like, I mean, I love that part, God bless. But yeah, that's the difference. But also the churches are older. I mean, there's Sagrada Familia here.
Hmm.
There's Catedral de Barcelona is 900 years
Correct.
old as well. The People's Church, Santa Maria del Mar, was rebuilt from scratch because all the people came and put it back together again. I mean, there's
Hmm.
so many beautiful, and it's not neo-Gothic. It's not built in the Industrial Revolution. There's true Gothic style, Baroque style, Romanesque style churches, which I always find beautiful. And, I don't go to church as often as I used to, but I definitely sit there. If I'm in a new church, I'm praying. Like, I'm like, why the hell not? Like, it's a good thing to do. I'm a gambling man anyway, so why not, bring it up, serve it up to the Almighty. Say, hey, I just want to check in again. Just want to wish for happiness and health for my family, such and such.
I'm here,
But
just that you don't forget about me.
right, I'm here, thank you so much. But it really is beautiful. There is a couple of old school in Manhattan churches like St. Patrick's Cathedral that give you that vibe, but there's
Hmm.
nothing like a European church, like a European Christian church. It's just great. Now I have to travel a little bit more, of course. But I mean, to my experience and being all over, I also had Orthodox family members, so I've gotten both upbringings. Yeah,
Really?
my grandfather who raised me's brother is a Greek Orthodox priest. So every single year I would go to the Easter celebrations, the Orthodox Easter celebrations, which are on another level. You fast for quite some time. My uncle would not touch a hint of meat or dairy for 40 days. Whereas like I felt in the United States, Catholics were like, oh, I'll just give up candy, like it's a little a little bit less. But that informed me very well. I was very happy about that learning experience. But also, honestly, I was a teenage boy and there's a lot of cute girls. So I was super happy to go to work festivals every year and go for Easter celebrations every year in my little kid ties and shirt and tie. But yeah, I learned a lot from him in that way as well, which was very fascinating. My uncle is a very, very good man and a very fair man. He used to take us for summers and just go out to lakes and activities and stuff. When we were young too. So yeah, I had that sort of dual upbringing with both of those influences.
We talked about holidays and we talked about religion. I think this too somehow brings together the family discussion. I want to ask you, how do you guys handle the homesickness, the family sickness, the distance from your family?
Yeah, it's very sad. Like I said, if we could magically teleport, we'd have no reason to ever leave. We make these trips once a year to make sure we do it. Calling, we send letters, we send little postcards from cities we visit.
Nice.
Yeah, so we'll go. We've been to like Valencia or Madrid or, Stockholm, and we'll get a bunch of extra postcards and we'll send them over to family. And usually we break them up in times like twice a year. Last year we didn't do it, but we're back at it this year, where we'll have right before Christmas and then right before we're going to visit. We'll send a bunch of postcards to family. My grandmother's refrigerator looks like I mean, it's crazy. She's got like 20 of them. Yeah, I gotta send you a picture. It's pretty cool. She loves it. She tells all her girlfriends when they play bridge, oh, my grandson and my granddaughter, they went to Rome and that's we get her fridge magnets, so that helps. We call, we chit chat. Social media helps a lot. But yeah, it stinks. That would be the only thing that's bad about the move. It really is. I mean, I have
Correct.
some of my friends are absolutely family. I make the most of seeing them when I'm there, and they have basically all of them have come to visit, which is great. I've gotten to show this city and other places off to pretty much all of my closest friends. Not every single one, but pretty much all of them. But yeah, it's really sad not to, I was a 5-minute walk away from my grandparents and my aunt, and now, it's a 7.5 hour flight, and then you got to get home. But we do make the most of our trips there, and I think they do love the corresponding with the little postcards from the cities. I recommend that to anybody because I think it is on us to keep those ties. People go live their normal lives, like sometimes weeks go by, sometimes months go by, and they don't intentionally, not talking to you. It's just life. So if we're outside of our, old former homes, I think it's on us to, step up a little bit in the communication department. So we try to do that.
Correct. I have to say these postcard things we did in the last I think 2 or 3 years, and I have to say that was such a nice thing because of course it takes 2 weeks, you forget about that, you send it, and then someone is sending you a
Yeah.
picture via WhatsApp, and you think, oh, nice, it got there, and this is such a good feeling.
Yeah, and
But
it's
yeah,
like, a friend of mine gives a yearly update where at the beginning of the year, he'll send a Christmas card and a picture of him, usually something silly, and he'll give like a little sheet of paper that's updating everyone up to his year. And I think we're going to start
nice.
doing maybe something like that. Yeah, like at the end of the year, like, yeah, here's our year in Barcelona,
Do
etc.
you
I
know? I guess you know Friends. Talking about TV
Yes.
shows,
Yes, yes, yes.
absolutely. Do you know? Do you remember the Geller Yeller? I don't know if you
No,
remember.
it's been so long since I watched the show.
I've seen it a lot, and I think the Ross and Monica were talking about the family update letter that they were sending every year. That was called the Geller Yeller, because the Geller was the family name, and then
Oh,
the Yeller because it was just
nice.
the like the update from the family. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that sentiment. Yeah. When I was funny in that whole, there's a little bit of a US thing from classic shows in the 90s, and I was a little bit more into Seinfeld, which is like more of the sarcastic show. That was sort of my brand of humor, but my wife's in love with Friends. She's watched it a billion times. We watch it together. But I was super like obsessed with Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Hmm.
So like that's more my reference of my growing up. But yeah, there's definitely things in there. I know a lot of my friends learned English using Friends. Uh,
I've seen Friends. I lost the count. We both love it, me and my wife, and we actually lost the count how often we have seen
Oh,
it.
great. Great.
And you just love it. You just whenever you have nothing else to watch, you just start another episode of Friends because you know exactly what's happening. You don't miss anything, and you can jump in and out every time you want because you know everything.
Well, I'm doing the opposite for learning Espanol. So I'm watching The Office with the American Office, not the Ricky Gervais Office. And we've seen that so many times. Yeah.
The American Office.
Yeah. Well, we've seen
Joke.
it so many times
Yeah,
that now I watch it
in
in
Spanish.
Spanish with the subtitles in Spanish because I
Mm-hmm.
know exactly what's happening. So that
Yeah.
has helped a lot. And since I've known so many people, friends and otherwise, people that I know of that have really taken to shows to help learn the language, to help with the language barrier, I've tried that as well recently, and I like it.
On the funny note, I made this recommendation a few times, but I feel obliged to do it to you as well. There
Mm,
is a TV series, the TV show. So due to my Romanian heritage, I can understand. I would say 70, 80, 90% of the Spanish. Um,
okay.
Depending on the context and so on, but I get a lot of it, and my wife can understand completely 100%, and she can also speak. But we watched a series which was done by Antena Tres from Spain, which
Okay.
is called Aquí no hay quien viva, and it follows an apartment building,
Okay.
and in the apartment building you have everything. You have a normal family, you have a family with mom, dad, two kids. Then you have the gay couple. Then you have the old lady living with her sister, both in their 60s, 70s. Then you have the gossip lady on the stairs who's always gossiping about the others. Then you have a lady complaining about everything. Then you have the grumpy old man. Then you have the
Yeah,
doorman who's
great.
also so every possible characters in there, and then they have, of course, episodic events. Man, I have to say, biggest laughs of my life.
That's so. Aquí no
Yeah,
vive? What is?
aquí no hay quien viva.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm
So
gonna
it's
jot that
like
down.
you cannot live here or something
Yep.
like this. So
Yep.
aquí no hay quien viva. Yeah. And on the funny note, there is I think there are two videos on YouTube, like really short, who are called Kiorais, and they said that they are played by actors who have done 4 weeks of Spanish in their fourth grade. So due to the fact that you understand Spanish, it's gonna be extremely funny.
You got to send that to me. That's incredible. Yeah, I'm looking to learn in any which way, like
Exactly,
so.
exactly.
I talk to my dog in Spanish. Anything I can do to speak because my brain is a lot like an old car in the winter. I have to warm up to the new language. Coming in out
Yeah,
of
but makes sense. Makes sense.
yeah.
Practice. So they have a saying in Germany which says practice makes the expert, and that's correct. I mean, as soon as I started speaking the language German, I of course it was extremely hard for the first 6 months, but then you get the habit in, and then you start thinking it, and you are faster and faster and faster. You get the reflexes there, and I think it's a brain exercise, right? Nothing
Yeah, of
else.
course.
Um,
How, how many
Please.
languages? I'm always curious if you don't mind me turning it on you for a minute.
No,
How many languages do you speak?
I speak. I'm Romanian native because
Yep.
I speak Romanian. I learn English, as I said, due to a lot of Eurosport, Cartoon Network,
Yeah, yeah.
and movies. That's the combination. And I speak German because I learned it here since I live here. I came to Germany also without speaking any kind of language.
Wow.
And I have to say, due to the fact that I speak Romanian, I have a really easy process of understanding Italian and Spanish.
They're yeah, very similar, right? Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
There's some
Exactly.
historical
And
Indo-European
of
stuff,
course,
yeah.
as I said, of course, I cannot get 100% of what people are saying, but you can get something out of context, or you can try to guess what the other word was meant, which you didn't completely understood. But yeah,
So you have an ear
I'm
for it. That's incredible. That's really
exactly,
cool. That's really cool.
exactly, and I
That's
love
another thing.
languages.
That's another thing. Anyone I speak to in Europe, like any waiter is going to speak four languages. Like, and that's a thing the United States can definitely learn. That the conversational ability in multiple languages is so critical and it's so valuable. I mean, it's absolutely amazing, but it's so easy here, like, because it's so focused on. I think that's incredible. Three languages is incredible. I don't even know how you juggle that. Like my brain can't even like it's so hard for me to learn a second one. So that's amazing. I just think that's really cool.
I have to say, half an hour before, no, yeah, half an hour before we started our discussion, I finished my last meeting at work because I had a home office day and there was a 1 hour long meeting in German. I went upstairs, I talked to my family in Romanian, which is funny, and then I
That's
came down, and
dude.
it felt so natural, man. I have to say, it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like an effort anymore, and that's such a. Even if I talk about it now, I realize that that's really cool. I have to say, yeah,
It is cool. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, so in the past 3 hours, you've spoken three different languages and extensively, and two of them aren't even your native. That's incredible.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah, I want to get
and
there so bad. Yeah, I will.
I have to say there is, but Rob, we have to be honest. There is an entitlement in every English community, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah. Oh, sure, sure, sure.
you always know that you can get along with your own language.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And this is something which is hard to overpass to think, I I need to learn the different language because for sure, if you speak English and you learn Spanish, I think you can cover 80% of the world, right?
You're right. Yeah, yeah.
So
Right.
that's why I think the need is not there, and that's why I'm always saying everyone that is coming from an English background, from an English background, society background, that is speaking another language, I have all the respect for because they don't need to. There is no need there. It's just because they want to.
Right. It gives me a whole new sense of understanding of people trying to learn English. I mean, I sit
Correct.
there, I feel I mean, I'm not generally somebody. I do speeches and I do public appearances and stuff like that. So like, I'm not easy to like shame. Like I don't feel like afraid or scared of public speaking. But I do feel when I'm doing it in another language. I feel it for sure. And that's something that I'm working through. And now with the classes, now that I'm back in classes, I think I'm going to really hammer that home. But yeah, it's you don't ever think about it. I don't. I've
The,
never thought about needing the other language outside of 1 year of sophomore
Mhm.
very remedial level, Spanish where my teacher was great, but I never did it again, stupidly. And now I'm paying the price for it. I think it's so important.
I think the biggest thing that you have to overcome in when speaking a new language is your ego.
Yeah.
Because the ego is the one telling you you should not speak it because you'll make grammatical mistakes and they will judge you and you'll think they will think less of you and so on. And in the moment when you are able to overcome this and think, you know what, duck it, I will just say it and that's it. Like for example, I know I'm not grammatically correct in English. I know that maybe sometimes I'm misusing words, but I just try. If it's working, I'm happy, and if it's not working, then I have to correct it. But at least I tried.
No, and you're totally right. That's more of I've been doing that more and more, especially over the last year, putting myself in these situations, language exchanges, and hanging out with my friends that don't speak as much. So I went to a rock and roll concert with my buddy who doesn't speak a word of English. So we
Hmm.
had to kind of, communicate though. We were there all day watching like 30 bands. So we had a lot to talk about. And you're right about putting yourself out there and making it happen. And I'm good enough at that. So I just got to make sure to, I want to get my foundation back with a teacher like I'm doing on Thursday. And then I think I'll be out there, as crazy as possible, talking with everybody. I'll talk to anybody just to get it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Rob, you talk about the evolution of the language, but I want to ask you, how did moving abroad change you?
Oh, how did moving abroad change me? Well, again, we had just said having a whole new series of understanding for people learning a second language, especially people in the United States trying to learn English. I'm sitting here like, whoa, like I'm a reasonably intelligent adult and I'm reading children's books because that's the level that I'm at. It changed me to be more cognizant of my place in a community. I'm a guest. People are very kind and neighbors are very kind, but at the end of the day, I am a guest. And so it's made me, mind my manners. In the States, we say mind your P's and Q's. I've thought about that. And again, I mean, I circle back to for the billionth time, but, you know, I like the idea of the healthcare system here. I think it's playing like it's not perfect. There's never going to be a perfect system. But I think if you want to prioritize where your tax money goes, not going bankrupt needing healthcare in your life is a very noble thing. So I think those three things, empathy for people that are learning another language, appreciation of the community that I'm in and being more respectful of that, and then obviously healthcare. That's what I'd say.
One of the parts of learning a new language, I was talking to Stephanie in one of the previous episodes, is this having this audacity that you have in your native language to ask, what did you mean by that? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
this is the confidence to do that question is only when someone is speaking your native language, because I should have understood that. So why I didn't, I have to ask why. What do you want to say? And now coming here, I have to ask you, what do you mean by mind your p's and q's?
Oh, it's an old saying. It's from Prohibition. It calls pints and quarts, mind your pints and quarts. But it's just about having manners and being respectful of the situation. So, I mean, there's situations here where I'm behind four people in a drugstore, and the person is having a conversation with the first person, and it's been 20 minutes, and I could be like, "Hey, I'm a New Yorker. I got places to be." But if that's just rude, and that's just being me, being worse of an outsider. And also just because, like, I'm trying to, I consider estadounidense, like our United States citizens living abroad, to be mini ambassadors. So I wouldn't want to like be I wouldn't want to live up to stereotypes, I guess. And so that's on my mind as well, is what I mean by that.
Thank you for the explanation. I have a question though. You said
Please.
you have Irish, you have an Irish heritage. Do you know why the whiskey bottle has 700 milliliters?
No.
Um, when they discover whiskey in the 1600s,
Hmm.
and they realized that the nice feeling that the alcohol is bringing you, everyone
Yeah.
started to drink it limitless. And the king said, no, 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 this cannot go on like this, because nobody was working anymore. Nobody
Yeah,
was
that makes
going to
sense.
work anymore.
Okay.
And they said, okay, you have a limit of 100 milliliters per day that you can drink. And the 700 milliliters, the bottle, was the weak dose.
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh man, that is interesting. Yeah, that is really interesting. Okay. Right. I mean, and what were you going to do back in the 1600s? There's no Xbox. You're going to drink whiskey, and you're
I
going to
mean,
sit
I fully,
around in pain. Like, yeah, that's a good tip.
man,
I like that.
this is one of the things that I keep saying. I think if Beethoven would have had TV, we wouldn't had any classical music.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we should
Yeah.
really appreciate
Yeah.
people that are doing these creative works today, because the amount of distractions that we have today in comparison with the past, it's incredible.
Right. You're supposed to be bored and do like things then, like there's too much to like, oh, let me stream online on Instagram for 3 hours. That's time you should be learning a language. That's time you should be taking your class. That's time you should be reading a book. No, I agree. And it's harder now, probably more for people. I completely agree with you. Yeah.
Someone said in the one of my guests said that the way in which they are using their algorithm from Instagram in their own advantage is that just watching Spanish videos,
Okay.
because
Yeah, yeah.
they
Sure. Yeah.
anyhow in which you can trick your brain in a positive way.
Oh, I
Uh,
follow, I have multiple pages, and one of them is just information. Like I just want to know influencers in the country. And
mhm.
I follow 100, maybe more Spanish language accounts just to make sure that I'm like seeing it every single day. Yeah, I'm on that train 100%. And then yeah, so
Absolutely.
you got to trick your algorithms because I don't know, man. For me, like social media is a little bit like cigarettes for the brain. You definitely need to take some breaks. You definitely need to like refocus. They say the old saying is go outside and touch grass. So yeah, I think if you trick your algorithm, it's for the best.
But I think it depends exactly. It depends on your algorithm if that cigarette break is getting your energy up or down.
Yeah, true. True. Making you
That's
happy or
that's the
making
only
you
thing.
not.
Exactly,
Yeah, is it
exactly,
cute dog videos or is it all the world's horrors? Like, what are you watching? Like, yeah, no, absolutely,
exactly.
absolutely.
Um, Rob, I have to say, it was more than a pleasure to talk
Oh
to you.
yeah,
The discussion with you, I enjoy it all. We are not done. But I have to. I need to say it because it was really a pleasure. I usually have a kind of
same.
a
Same.
and in which I prepare some kind of a hot fire question. I have always
Well,
5 questions tailored on the guest. So
I got to
rapid
say
fire,
thank you
not hot
too. It was
fire.
really great talking to you, man. I'm really glad to get to know. We kind of went cold on this, so it was really a great conversation. I appreciate talking to
I love it. I love it as
you. Yeah.
well. Um, Rob, what is Spain doing better than US? Don't say healthcare system, please.
Yeah, let me give you something better. ham, ham, ham Iberico is the best I've ever seen. Um,
Jamón
what is
serrano or like really ham?
Iberico, the top tier, the top tier. Serrano's great, but
I know
Jamon
it. I know it.
Iberico is
Yeah,
elite. It's on a level unforeseen. Really good travel infrastructure. These subways are immaculate. The metros are immaculate. You get internet connection and you could eat a sandwich off the floor if you really wanted to. It's a joke. But the public transportation systems in the United States, because they're so car focused, are severely underfunded. And all the trains I've taken and all the metros I've taken throughout this beautiful country and region have really impressed me. Have really, really impressed me. I grew up on the New York City subways. They're massive, but they've fell into disrepair, unfortunately. So without a doubt, public transportation, to give you a different answer than healthcare, which would have been obviously one.
Th- I have to say Spain is known in Europe, even in Europe, for their train system,
It's
for
incredible.
their
And
yeah.
cheap. It's subsidized obviously with tax dollars, but again, another good thing to spend tax dollars on, like public
Correct,
transportation.
correct. Yeah,
And then they really are handling the flu outbreak very well. My wife and I got vaccines immediately. They had timing periods about where, if you go to hospitals and doctors, this is mandatory to wear a mask if you're around sick people, but they were very smart about the timing of all of that. And they're having a far less problem with that. And as of last year, the economy is on a pretty big upswing, and it's been for quite a while. The U.S. economy is unfortunately a little heading on the downswing. So those
great.
things I like a lot.
The U.S. economy is just great.
Yeah, yeah. For now, yeah.
I have to say the health system, the health system in Spain was really bad 20, 25 years ago, and they have invested massively in recovering that, getting doctors back in the countries and so on. That's why they are where they are today.
Oh man, it
And
takes
also the
investment. It takes investment. It's
correct.
not something you can just put on autopilot.
And also the economy is something which is impressive. They are on the best growing path in the whole Europe. So
Well, you're going to get a lot of doctors from the United States of America that want to come live in the Costa del Sol or like in
and
Galicia
doing
or
their
in
job.
Barcelona. Yeah, and then you come in
And
here and you go and you're having a great quality of life. So I think they're also doing quality of life pretty well.
Rob, what is the US doing better than Spain?
What is the US doing better than Spain? Huh. What is the US doing? Not elections. Um, what the US is doing really well, showing that dissent is patriotic. Right now, the right to freedom of speech and protest, I think, is strong in the United States and stronger than pretty much anywhere else in the world. Even though obviously right now you have a little man baby in the White House trying to get people canceled and send the government after them. But in reality, the United States it comes with caveats and it causes damage. But I think that freedom is critical, and I think they're doing that well. The economy. See, the misnomer in the United States is that the jobs, you can get a job and it's super easy to form a business as well. But the problem is a lot of jobs don't pay enough for people to live on in the States. There are a massive amount of jobs that people just can't afford their daily lives on in the United States, but it is easier to start a business. And that's the way up. The American dream, I think the quickest path that way is being good at something, starting a business and making a great livelihood for yourself and your families. It's so easy to come like make a Romanian food restaurant. It's so easy to come build an app. It's so easy to come do that. And that's why again I think immigration is so important to the United States of America, because the superpower of the United States of America is Who wants to be an American? And then bring me your PhDs, bring me your engineers, bring me your chefs and your elite seamstresses, bring me everything. And so I think they're doing that really well as well.
This is one of the base on which the Spanish economy went up based on the immigrants because they took the lower jobs so that people could focus on development of studies and so on. And this is how the economy is growing everywhere. I think this is
And they pay into the system. So if you're worried about the financial viability of things like universal health care, immigrants are great because they pay into those systems long terms of time. And
they
you
are a
know,
lot.
and they pay rent and they buy food and they buy clothes and they buy tickets to flamenco shows. Like there's all
Exactly.
sorts of great things. And I'm a little biased because I'm a expat myself, but I am always been, even back in the States, I was always this way. I have Irish immigration heritage in my family, of course.
What's Spanish word that you can't really translate one to one in English?
Oh, there's so many though. So it's not one to one at all. The what I've learned in my classes is you're going point for point. I'm making a similar point. The words are never going to add up. Like, I just told the guy who delivered our groceries, "Puedes poner todo aquí?" Put everything here. Like, it's not necessarily something you would say. Like, oh, can you just throw it on the ground for me? But direct translation, that's such a good question. That isn't. Oh man. Can I pass and come back to it? Oh, there's definitely
Yes.
examples. I'm gonna feel bad.
Yeah. So I always have in mind desayunar because I
Oh
don't
yeah.
have the
To
feeling
rest.
that there is a verb in
Yeah,
English
right.
because you don't say I will breakfast. You never say I will breakfast, but desayunar is something which is always on my mind
You do
when I
not
think about this.
use breakfast as a verb. You do not use dinner as a verb. You do use lunch as a
Exactly.
verb, but that's only in corporate America.
You do?
Let's
How
do
would you use
lunch.
lunch?
Let's do lunch. No, so you're right. It's not a verb,
Oh,
actually. No, I'm wrong.
it's not a verb.
I'm
No,
wrong.
no, no, no.
I'm wrong.
No, it's
You're
not.
totally right.
But that would have been interesting. Interesting, yeah. But yeah,
Yeah,
we there is this thing of the Spanish word of the Spanish language that they are using the verbs as actions, which is kind of interesting.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, that's my answer.
Rob, 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 if you would have the possibility to go back and take this decision again, would you do the same?
100%. Make the come do the same thing all over again? Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. It was the best
yeah.
decision, one of the best decisions I ever made. It's made our marriage better. It's made our lives better. We have friends. I mean, our friends are just wonderful people. My best friends, Justin and Lucine. Justin's been an old buddy from university. And so we always stayed in touch. Happy birthday, on Facebook kind of thing. When I told him we were going to move out, he was like, "Oh, just let me know. We'll set you up. We'll get you settled." And we just merged seamlessly into their friend group. Just the coolest, most wonderful people, international as hell. I can list off a dozen
Hmm.
different countries that people are from, and some Catalans and some Spaniards as well. But yeah, it was. I would definitely make the decision 10 times, every single time, 100 times out of 100 to do this again. I don't regret it at all. Just, missing my family and friends. But even with that, it was such an important thing that I did, and I'm happy I did it. We, of course. I say
For sure.
I'm some guy. I'm
Uh,
some
that was a
bachelor.
mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob, the last question of today. Where is home?
I was homes with my wife and my dog.
I
Um,
love this answer. I love
yeah.
it. I
It's
always keep saying that. I keep saying that it's a feeling, it's not a place.
right. I mean, we love where we live, but we could go live in the next barrio or the barrio of where her job is, and we would make our
Correct.
home. We were very happy. My wife likes to sleep on my chest, and my dog sleeps on my leg. That's home. Like, yeah,
Good, nice. That's a nice description.
yeah.
Um, Rob, you're an amazing person. I enjoyed the discussion with you, and I'm happy that I got to know you.
Me too, man. Let's keep it going. I consider you a friend now. I'll keep chatting, and I got some connections for
Same,
you too.
same here.
Yeah,
Yeah, nice. I'm happy. I'm. Would you mind telling people where they can find you? Do you use social
oh,
media or
100%.
something like this?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Can you share it? I will
100%.
link it in the description as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can share it on a number of networks. I'm gonna torture all my friends with it as well. So very good.
Perfect, perfect. I will put it in the show notes description. I will also put it on your name tag
Fantastic.
during the
Listen, it was really
episode
great
so
talking
that
to you.
everyone can find you.
It was really, really great having
Same
this
for me, Rob.
conversation. Thank you.
And I hope honestly that we get to do this in person in a few years so that
100%.
I get more of your Spanish experience.
Yeah, and yours in Germany as well. I got to go back there for the food. So absolutely.
Just
Yes,
let me know when you're around.
can't wait to talk again then. Have a good
Same
one.
for me. Have a good one. Bye.